Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors, episode 137.
Welcome to Life by Design, the podcast for chiropractors. Here's your host, Dr. Jamie Richards.
Welcome to Life by Design. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Richards, and I'm not joined today by anybody. Today we're talking about the three questions, Reggie Gold's three questions, if you will. Love these three questions. I heard them first almost 15 years ago, and they really just changed the way you would think about having a conversation with somebody. They get right to the heart. And so I'm going to share with you these three questions. They're almost to the point where they might seem shocking to you if you were to decide to ask the questions this way. But I want you to put that aside, and I want you to think about if you were to ask these questions and the answers that the patient or prospect would be led to, how powerful of an answer that would be. Understand, I get that saying these out loud for yourself could be challenging. And you might think to myself, oh, that just sounds like, I'm over the top, or that sounds like that is something that would make somebody uncomfortable. I don't think Reggie really cared about that. I think what he cared about most was people understanding the premise and people starting chiropractic care for themselves and their family. And so I want you to think of these questions as I go through them. We've taken these questions and really built them into our day one, day two process and done so in a way that we've reworded them, changed them, but we really still elicit the same type of answer. And so you can see that in the day one, day two blueprint, or the day one, day two ultimate conversion system. Sorry, I'll put that in the show notes, guys, and you can check that out. Let's go through these questions. So let's assume you're finishing up going over somebody's test results, if you will. Not that Reggie went over people's test results, but if you're going over somebody's test results and you get to the point where you have some questions, and in asking these questions, you go through it in this order. So let's assume somebody came in and it was headaches and neck pain, and that was the reason they consulted with your practice. At the end, I'd say, Steve, let's assume that we open up all these channels, and if you're not watching this on one of the other video versions of the podcast, I'm just pointing at the spine. Let's say we open up all these channels and your headaches and your neck pain went away. Would it make sense to let these channels close off? And of course, it's an obvious answer. So we're teeing it up on the first question for people to get really the obvious, which is, of course not. Of course, we're not going to let these channels close off. Now, this is where it starts to get more complicated, and this really is the crux of Third Paradigm Chiropractic. And if you understand this concept, and if your day one and day two is built around getting people to understand this, then you're in a good position and you're going to be able to take people on this journey. So the second question, Steve, let's say we open up all of these channels and your neck pain and your headaches don't get better and they don't go away. Should we close these channels off, or should we keep them open? The obvious answer, and the one that people clearly are leaning towards, which is, well, we should keep them open. But you're putting in that real caveat, which is the reason you came to consult with me didn't improve, and it's not going to improve. In fact, there's no change whatsoever in your headaches or neck pain. Should we close all the channels up, or should we keep them open? They're going to say keep them open, but of course, they've always had hope that the reason they came to see you is going to be solved by whatever intervention you deliver. Now, we all recognize that when somebody is subluxated, it has massive effects, especially on their physical health, on mechanical health, and correcting that mechanical problem has an effect on the nervous system. In many cases, allows the body to resolve different sets of symptoms and conditions. We get that. But people have to understand it in principle, because there are going to be cases where people have no subjective changes and you're basing success purely on the objective data changing between examination to examination to examination. And you may have these people, we have these patients who by the end of corrective care, we see massive changes in their objective results, and whether they're not aware or whether they truly have not experienced changes that have led to subjective improvement, they still continue on because they understand that we should still keep these channels open. And most times, if they haven't had the subjective change that they hope for, something else has changed. So they've changed in other ways. They recognize different things in their body or other improvements that they didn't expect. And that goes back to the day 1, 2, when we communicate to them, these core problems with your spine and nervous system could be affecting you in the ways that you feel, the ways that brought you in, but they could also be affecting you in ways that you have no idea about. And so we asked them that second question, which is, let's say your headaches don't go away, your neck pain doesn't go away. Should we keep these channels open or close them off? And then the third question, which we don't ask at this point, we do have a conversation about family and children, but you can see how bold Reggie was, and it gets right to the heart. And he would ask people, how long should we keep these channels closed off in your kids? Well, obviously the answer is never. That's not a question that I'm willing to, at this point, ask people, at least not directly in that moment. It is a legitimate question to ask, but my focus is on getting people initiated into the corrective care phase, starting to have them experience the care, experience the outcomes, educate them, and get to the point where I may ask them that question in some way, shape, or form. More often, they ask us before we get to the point where we ask them, I think my kids need to get checked, or I think my partner or my spouse or a friend or family and so on needs to get checked. And so we have those systems in place to follow up on that. But those are the 3 questions. And I want you to think about those again. If your headaches and neck pain, insert condition here, goes away, should we close the channels off or keep them open? Well, we should keep them open. And let's say your headache or neck pain or insert condition here does not improve, should we keep the channels open or close them off? Well, obviously we should keep them open. How soon should we check them, or at what point should we keep them closed in your kids? Or how long should we keep those channels closed off in your children? Well, obviously the answer is never. So, food for thought. I wanted to go over those questions today. One, just as a homage to Reggie and how incredible he was as a communicator, and really how precise he was in his understanding of Third Paradigm Chiropractic. I mean, he coined the term, he developed the idea. And I know we've done everything we can to bring that into a contemporary model, and we're very excited about that. And we love talking about this every day, and it's what we do on Life by Design. So guys, check out the show notes. Anything I talked about, I'll throw in there, especially the day 1, day 2 conversion system, which is a more all-inclusive system for day 1, day 2 conversions. I know you'll love that. The feedback's been great. Everybody's loving it, training on it, and getting great results. So as always, thank you for listening to Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic.